So, welcome to another episode of Digital Marketing Answered. Today, I'm talking all things sustainability strategy in marketing, and I'm really happy to be joined by Amelia Fetherstonhaugh, who is a seasoned marketing and brand manager with over a decade of experience in not only FMCG, retail, but also not for profit and even financial services. She began her career with DDB Group in Melbourne, continued to London, and has worked with major clients like Great Ormond Street Hospital, Specsavers, and P&G. She's driven by her passion for the environment, and she's transitioned from in-house roles to purpose-driven SMEs focusing on sustainable products. Those include reusable water bottles and biodegradable cleaning supplies. So she's seen firsthand on how integrating sustainability into business operations not only aligns with consumer demand, but also drives impressive e-commerce growth. So we're very lucky to have Amelia join us today and get her insights on eco-friendly strategies. So Amelia, welcome to the Digital Marketing Answered podcast.
Thanks, Tim. It's great to be here.
Great. Well, I've just given a little bit of a snapshot overview about you, but do you want to just fill in the details for those people listening to this episode about you?
Yeah, no worries. So as you said, I've got over a decade of experience sort of working in branding and marketing across a huge range of sectors, from financial services to not-for-profit, in both B2B and B2C markets as well. So I began my career in marketing and advertising agencies, actually, which is why I have such a broad spectrum of experience, which was pretty fantastic in terms of like my formative career, learning as much as I could from sort of the experts in different areas, from creative strategy to data planning and advertising. It was really fantastic as a way to kind of shape my career. But yeah, as you said, about 5 years ago, I transitioned to work in house for purpose driven small businesses, leading their marketing departments. Yes, that is me in a nutshell.
Ah, great. So, how's your passion for the environment kind of driven your decisions when it's come to the career changes?
So I've always been very passionate about the environment ever since university, to be honest. Which actually was the basis of a bit of an ethical conundrum that I had while I was studying marketing at Monash University in Melbourne, because I had a bit of a problem with the ethics of consumerism, mass consumerism, and the impact that has on the environment, and obviously the role of marketing in that as well, which can be pretty massive, obviously. But I had a really good lecturer who kind of helped me see that marketing can be a real force for good when you're talking about changing consumer behavior to more positive products. So that would obviously be environmentally friendly products. And the role that marketing can play is really fantastic there. So when I realized that good guys need marketing as well, I thought it was sort of obvious as a career move to kind of move into sort of purpose-driven businesses. And I fundamentally believe that having a genuine passion for what you sell is like super important when it comes to being a marketing manager. You know, you are the voice of the brand and of the product. You need to believe in what you're selling. And when you feel genuinely that it's a force for good, it makes the work so much easier.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's interesting, and I understand your dilemma that you talk
Mm.
about. It's an interesting one. I mean, we titled this episode of the podcast, "Is sustainability strategy essential for marketing today?" As we start to unpick that, I suppose it's worth actually just sort of getting your take on how you would describe sustainability, because different
hmm
people have different ideas as to what that really means.
So I think for me, when it comes to sort of understanding how businesses can operate more sustainably, it's just talking about reducing your impact on the environment through your entire supply chain, entire business operations, everything you do. So that goes all the way down to the way you run your office, to the type of products that you're selling. So for me, sustainability doesn't need to be some ginormous, massive Everest that needs to be conquered, but it's about sort of small changes that can be made to reduce the impact of your business and your operations, basically.
So looking at things as the incremental good that you can do, so rather
Yeah,
than a one thing, it's like, oh, we'll do that, and that's enough, like carbon
Well, yeah,
offsetting.
well, you don't need to massively change your entire product range and all of your suppliers and things like that. You can start from the ground up a little bit, even insofar as looking at the way your office is run. Do you have good waste management processes? What energy supplier are you using? Are you recycling office equipment? Like when new staff are hired, are you buying them new laptops? Are you buying them new cables? Technological waste is massive and it can't really be recycled.
Yeah.
So yeah, when it talks about kind of embedding sustainability into your business, it doesn't need to be some ginormous, hugely expensive exercise.
Yeah. Okay. No, I like that, and I think that's important. So, in terms of where we are, um, as you said, you've had the awareness, and you've been involved with environmental things from university times, and that's similar to from my, should we say, awakening in terms of environmental concerns. But I think I went to university a little while before you. But as we've moved through this time, it certainly seems like sustainability is really increasingly important to consumers. What's your take on that?
Massively so, and it's only growing as well. Bain and Company have done some really good research papers recently about the increasing consumer demand towards more sustainable products. Something like 73% of the UK now understand the importance of buying sustainable products and the impact they can have on a personal level. So that is, and they think it's really important as well. So that is talking about buyer behavior at an individual level.
Yeah.
In terms,
Sorry, just to interrupt, 73%.
yeah, of those who are
So,
surveyed, yes.
so sustainability is not a niche concept for a
No,
niche audience.
no, no
Yeah,
way.
very
And
interesting.
also from a business perspective, nearly 50% of the businesses that were surveyed said that they would stop working with a supplier if the eco credentials weren't up to scratch anymore. And I think in the next 3 years, it's going to become the second most important thing they consider when working with suppliers after quality. So that's
Right.
before price and convenience.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So the world is changing. It's moving very, very swiftly and quickly. Well, that's the same word,
yeah.
but very quickly towards sustainability, which is really exciting.
Yeah, it's really good. I suppose with that, and with it becoming something which is applicable to so many more businesses, given, the data you just quoted. Um, what's, is there a danger of this greenwashing effect that we've heard?
Absolutely, and it's not even something that you need to just consider. You must adhere to ensuring that your green claims are truthful and honest, because the CMA, the Competition and Market Authority, wasn't super well publicised, but in 2021 they released the Green Claims Code, which is basically making greenwashing illegal. So it's 6 guidelines at which businesses need to adhere to, and they have guidance for both businesses and consumers in terms of what to look for when it comes to companies making green claims. And you can be fined. You can be fined and audited in terms of the claims that you're making. So it's not a nice to have anymore. You must be truthful in terms of the claims that you're making.
So what sort of regulations is it? It's actually just saying, if you're going to say we are environmentally friendly, you actually have to have some data points to back that up. Is
You've
that
got
what they're
to,
asking?
yeah, back it up with substantial evidence. So if you're making a claim about, I don't know, the biodegradability of packaging, you need to talk about like how it biodegrades, over what time, what it's made from, that type of thing.
Yeah.
The communications must be honest and transparent. They can't be misleading. You can't omit any information about the process through which it has become biodegradable, for example. So you need to be really careful in terms of what you're saying. And the problem that we're actually having now is a lot of businesses that are more environmentally friendly are getting a bit nervous about these fines and regulation,
Oh,
and they're actually omitting green claims from some of their products for fear of getting in trouble, even though they might be doing the right thing. The guidance is still, there's some gray areas in terms of
right.
what things mean, and it's a bit tricky because it's not super clear. It's not very black and white. There's still a lot of gray. So
Yeah.
for example, the word eco-friendly, is still a little bit ambiguous in terms of the definition of it. And there's been some discussion about, it meaning that the product must have either a neutral or net positive impact on the environment, which is impossible when you're thinking about the nature of producing a product and the process it has to go through to be made. It has to have an impact on the environment. It's impossible for it not to. So therefore, the term eco-friendly product can't exist. So
oh right, okay,
it's still not super clear. It's still quite difficult, but I think as long as you're trying to be as honest and truthful as you can be about the credentials that you're claiming. And the CMA's website's quite good. They've got a quiz on it that you can kind of work out if your claim is viable. And I don't think they're cracking down super hard, but it's just making consumers aware that this exists now and that they can be, they can challenge businesses and ask them, for more information about claims that they're making as well. Yeah.
So those marketing listeners who are on this episode, listening to this episode, we can link to that CMA code, but it shouldn't, although you're talking about some people being nervous about their claims, it shouldn't put people off moving towards a sustainable strategy and presenting that.
No, absolutely not, because your sustainability strategy should always be based on the truth anyway. So you shouldn't be trying to mislead people, and if you are, then that's not great.
So how do you make that sustainability piece come like right from the core of what the business does? So if you're a senior marketing leader and you want to present a more sustainable brand image, where do people start on that?
I think if you're looking to kind of have conversations with key stakeholders in terms of introducing sustainability strategy into your business, it's important to obviously go first with the research. So presenting, some really well peer-reviewed studies about how demand is changing, and sort of being able to communicate and back up that it is the way forward and it is where the market is going and it is what people are looking for is super important, obviously. So do your research to begin with. I think as well, as I mentioned earlier, it doesn't need to be some ginormous, massive cost and huge overhaul of all of your business strategy and your operations. It can start from the ground up. It can be small changes. And I think in terms of your communication strategy as well, I think including your consumers in your journey is really lovely as well. So being super honest about the position that you're in and how you want to do your bit and reduce your impact and the types of initiatives that you're looking into. You tell your consumers, tell your customers that you are looking at ways to have renewable energy in your office, that you are introducing good waste systems, that your team do volunteer with food waste charities, once every 2 months. Like, share all of this information. It makes us more human, it makes it more approachable, and it makes it more inclusive.
That's really interesting, because that in itself, that's engaging content for the consumer, and often we're talking to brands and we're talking to businesses, and they're like, well, what should we be saying? What can we talk about which is new? And what you're saying is actually make the consumer part of that journey and talk to them about how you're developing and how you're changing.
Absolutely. I mean, good brand management is all about creating an emotional connection with your audience. And I think by humanizing yourself and your business and your process and your journey, you're creating that emotional connection. You're inviting them to be a part of it. And from that comes loyalty, comes engagement, comes all the good stuff that we want when it comes to building a brand.
Yeah. Would you recommend people are honest and actually also talk about the things that they're not doing so well and they want to change?
That is a bit of a tricky one, because obviously some people aren't doing fabulous things. I think it would need to be a bit of a case-by-case basis. And if that specifically was something that you were looking to improve, you could, because you could say we were here and now we're going here and then we'll go here. But I don't think you need to be completely talking about
naked.
every single tiny detail. but being as honest as you can, obviously within
Yeah.
the limits of what your business is happy to do.
Yeah. I was just thinking what you don't want to get done, you don't want to get caught out on social media that you're saying, look at us, aren't we great? And then suddenly somebody posts up, yeah, but what about your plant X, which is, putting toxins
But
into this river or something
again,
like that.
I think that's fine. It just depends how you handle comments like that. You can be like, yeah, we totally know, we completely understand that is also not good. We're also looking into that, and you should be. If it's really, really bad, you should also be looking into that at some point. It should be part of your plan.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so actually the sustainability strategy, it goes very much alongside a transparency strategy.
Yes, absolutely. I think absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you've seen the impact of this kind of brand management, we'll call it, towards e-commerce in your roles, and how do you see, it positively impacting, e-commerce businesses in terms of their presentation around sustainability?
Well, I think that, profitability should go hand in hand with this. At the end of the day, there are businesses, so they do need to make some money. It just adds to your brand story and just adds to your clout, I think, as a brand to care about and want to go back for, because it shows that you have a conscience, that you are caring about what happens to the environment that we all live in. And it just adds to your communication strategy.
Yeah. Do you see a future where the consumer will prioritize sustainability over price in a mass market scenario?
Absolutely. I mean, it's already happening. Most major brands now have like an eco option as well within their product suite. Nike's got clothes that are made from 100% recycled materials, things like that. I mean, there's a couple of reasons why I think as well the tide is shifting. Is first of all, most people in the world are beginning to experience the effects of climate change from an extreme weather event. Even in the UK, which was living in a little bit of a bubble, I think, for a while floods were raging in Pakistan and there's droughts in the desert. But now we're beginning to see flooding, storms, that type of thing. Obviously, I come from Australia. We have huge issues with bushfires and drought and floods there.
Yeah.
So people are beginning to actually feel the impact of climate change. But also in a more positive light as well, eco products are becoming really amazing. Like the market has changed hugely in terms of the quality of eco-friendly products. So there obviously used to be a bit of a misconception that eco-friendly products didn't work as well, or you have to give up something to buy
Yeah.
something eco. But that's no longer the case. The technology and the innovation that we've seen has been incredible, and now it's becoming more like for like with conventional products, which is really exciting. So it's easier for consumers, I guess, to switch.
Yeah, yeah, and I think there's been regulation as well to present things as, or to drive companies to become more sustainable. I'm thinking EU regulations around things like the
Mm,
manufacture of electronic products, because there's a lot of locked up carbon in a washing machine, and
yeah.
if it only lasts for 2 years and then somebody throws it in the bin after that, um, how do where do you see the regulation part of this fitting in and working?
Hopefully getting stricter as well. I think that longevity of products is a massive thing that we need to sort of talk about, particularly when it comes to, yeah, as you said, like white goods, big gadgets like iPhones, that type of thing. They do seem to only last for a couple of years.
Yeah,
And also this, what would be really awesome to see as well is more of a repair economy. So getting things fixed rather than buying new things. I mean, it's a bit of a sad state at the moment. I repaired a suitcase the other day. The wheels
yeah.
came off, and it cost me £80 to repair the suitcase.
Wow.
And I probably could have bought another one for similar to that. But I got it
Yes.
repaired, and I felt really good about it. But you know,
Yeah.
obviously financially I was able to do that, but a lot of people wouldn't be able to do that, and that's really sad, I think.
Yeah.
But also, there's countries like France are banning single-use plastic from major sort of takeaway and fast food uh, places, which is really, really good to see as well. But obviously, there does need to be some consideration for businesses, I guess, that can't afford to implement that yet, but I think it is moving in the right direction, which is really good to see.
Well, yeah, I suppose you say they can't afford to do it, but I think perhaps we as the consumer, we're not paying the true price of
No,
a product. If we don't, so
absolutely.
what if you had to pay for the disposal of that suitcase,
Mm,
because you had to, is there, taxation, if you like, to represent the true cost? I mean, I come from an economics background,
yeah.
so the thing I was taught was the third party, external costs not being represented within the supply and demand curves, because it was an
Mm,
external cost, and pollution in its many forms is that external cost that you have to try and bake into a product.
yeah, for sure. I mean, particularly when you look at fast fashion, my gosh, that industry is just horrendous. It costs it's like hundreds of liters of water to produce one pair of jeans. And then you think about the pollution as well, downstream pollution of the factory, where it's been made in developing countries and how that impacts the
Yeah,
local community, and in terms of the health issues they have later down the line, and how they can't, the healthcare systems can't afford to support it
yeah,
just because we want a new pair of jeans every season.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
bananas. Mm.
No, that's really interesting, because I'm not sponsored by them, but I'd be happily sponsored by them. I buy the Nudie jeans now, which I
Ah,
think are
yeah.
a Scandinavian brand, but they offer to fix the jeans for
Yes.
free for the lifetime, and they're good for it as well.
Mm.
I've taken a couple of pairs in, and they've done repairs on them. But yeah, absolutely. I was gobsmacked by the pollution as well, caused by
Mm.
non-organic cottons, the use of pesticides and
Yeah.
fertilizers and things.
But it's all the
So
plastics as well, like all the plastic materials, and how they're just being sent to, I think there's a massive clothes dump in the Atacama Desert, just getting burnt there and then being
wow,
released into the atmosphere. But I think as well, it's like, for me, I do feel this sense of kind of disconnection that people have with the planet and themselves, and this whole concept of like saving the planet being this like objective thing that we need to save. But what people fail to understand is it's not actually the planet that needs saving. It's an environment in which we can live in,
yeah,
because the planet will actually be fine once we're gone. It's been around for millions of years, and it will continue to be around for millions of years once its major parasite, us, are gone.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
not about saving this thing that is separate to us. It's us. We're saving
yeah,
ourselves. And so
yeah,
people need to think much more seriously about their impact, and the fact that it's for themselves. They need to make these changes in their
yeah,
lives, for themselves, for their children, for their grandchildren.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. No, it's a difficult thing, and it's that whose job is it, if Bob next door doesn't do their bit, why should I do my bit? Yeah, there's a
yeah.
whole thing there. But so but let's use that concern we have, and that drive to do better. So okay, for those people listen, what active steps should marketing leaders be taking, saying, okay, I'm going to be part of the solution? What are things that people can start doing?
So I think, first of all, as I said earlier, just do your research, talking about, if you do need to create a business case for key stakeholders, it shouldn't be hard. I mean, there's so much research out there. Start with Bain& Company. They've got some really good surveys they've
Yeah,
done recently about consumer demand for eco-friendly products. I think as well, thinking about where you can start from business operations. As I said, small steps. You don't doesn't need to be some massive thing. I mean, I sort of draw an analogy with when you're trying to create a budget for yourself, and the first step might be write down everything you're spending, and then have a look
yeah,
about where you can save. So super similar in terms of how you could approach sustainability within your business.
yeah,
But then also, I think engaging your team is massive. I think on my experience as a marketing manager, I feel like sometimes we're the cheerleaders for the business and for the brand, and you want to get people really excited about stuff. I think making sure that your team are involved in the process as well, and get really excited about what changes can be made. And also because a lot of when you talk about reducing your impact and trying to work out what things you can do to be more sustainable, you need to think a bit innovatively. And it can be totally a group exercise. Like, how can we reduce our impact here? Who
Yeah.
knows somebody who works in packaging? How could we leverage our network? Does anybody know anybody who works in this industry that we could talk to about changing our bottles from virgin plastic to recycled plastic, or
Yeah.
something like that? Involve everybody, because everybody, it needs to be one team, one dream, I think, with sustainability, because otherwise it does become an afterthought. It
Yeah.
does need to be something that's entrenched in your business, and that has a huge impact as well on employee retention, employee engagement. I mean, obviously, speaking from personal experience, if I'm working for a business that's got really solid sustainability strategy, I'm all in. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Okay. Where do you think that agencies can play a role in this sustainability strategy?
Well, I think in terms of the way that agencies can play a part in sustainability strategy, I think it comes from two places. So I think, first of all, as thought leaders in this space, I mean, you guys need to be on top of technology innovation and how it's changing the landscape in terms of, how your clients might be able to use technology for their sustainability strategy. But also in terms of connecting people, connecting your clients together. I think collaboration is key, is so important in terms of how we can all reach net zero. We need to do it together. Nobody's going to do it by themselves. So you might have one client that works in one area and one client that works in another area that actually could work together to help each other reduce their footprint. So you also, agencies act as the connectors between these people, and I think that's super important. Yeah, so major role, I think.
Oh, that's really good to know. Obviously, Innovation Visual are very involved in the digital aspects of
Yes.
marketing and helping clients perform. What is the around the digital area that marketing leaders might want to be looking at in terms of improving their position?
So when it comes to your digital footprint as a business, a lot of people don't realize that the carbon impact of all of our gadgets, our laptops, our computers, our same thing, mobile phones, is the equivalent to the aviation industry in terms of carbon emissions. So it's a huge impact on the environment. And actually, you can design your website in a way that reduces its footprint. So when it comes to digital design, there are loads of things you can do, from optimizing images, not having videos on your website, having a faster page load speed, using less bright white colors, because darker colors take less energy to light, obviously. So even
Yeah.
small things like that can have a really big impact on the footprint of your website.
Yeah.
So you can even think about things like that, which obviously can make a difference as well, and that also has a really positive impact on SEO as well. So
Yeah.
it's not just about sustainability, it's also about the user experience. Faster load speeds, that type of thing, is always better
Yeah.
for the user experience.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, interesting. I do remember back some time ago reading that an individual Google search at the time consumed as much electricity as boiling a cup of water in a kettle because
Yes.
of where the data went through all these data centers and things.
Yes, exactly. And now we have a little bit of a problem with AI, because ChatGPT is the equivalent of, like, I think it's like 10 or 20 Google searches in one question.
Wow.
So AI, yeah, obviously the adoption of AI is huge and growing, but the data centers
Yeah.
are still hugely relying on fossil fuels. So we need to solve
Yeah.
that problem as well, because that's going to
Yeah.
become bad.
Well, that's a step on from the cryptocurrency problem, isn't it? Because
Mm,
although I mean Ethereum, to be fair to them, they re-platformed their whole technology and cut 98% of their emissions by changing the way their technology worked, which I know is a big
mm,
deal. But Bitcoin, a lot of these Bitcoin mining operations went out
yeah,
to countries which were just cheap fossil fuels, weren't they? They were just sitting next to dirty power plants.
yeah, yeah. And then obviously the human impact of that is so bad as well, in terms of the pollution of that and the local communities that they're near. And yeah, it's
Yeah,
not great.
we need to be aware of our total footprint, don't we, when it comes to these things?
Yeah. Yes, I think finding out how much things are emitting as well can be a bit of a scary exercise, but important to do nonetheless.
Right. So like the budgeting exercise, you know, do your research, but get your own numbers, look at your
Mm.
whole list of where you've got impact, and then start working through, you know,
Yeah, and
the
there are loads of carbon accounting firms you can work with as well that can help you on this journey too, in terms of understanding your impact. It's broken up into three sections. There's scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 emissions.
yeah.
So scope 1 is anything that you're directly controlling. So if you have like a warehouse or you have a fleet or something like that. Scope 2 is indirect, but still within sort of area that you control. So that would be like energy, because you'd have like an energy provider. And then scope
Yeah.
3 is all of your suppliers and all of your indirect emissions further down the line. So that's how it's
Okay.
kind of broken up. Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. Because I mean, so you can rate us on like how well we're doing it. So
Yeah.
we measure all of our transportation
Hmm.
emissions.
Is that your
Um,
staff, as in your employees
Staff,
going from
yeah,
and
employees, yeah.
internal? Yep.
Yeah, so we measure all of those. Then we're in a shared building space, our office, so we don't
Yep.
directly have our own consumption, but we have a calculation based on all of our laptops and screens. So we took the consumption of the pack, because everybody's got pretty much a set kit list, and obviously most of our team work from home because
Mm.
we're a remote first organization, and so we calculated the carbon footprint from there, and then we also do some waste management. So if you're in the office,
Mm.
it's recycle versus, you know, is that, if it's not recyclable, and try and minimize that. um you know, but should we, you know, where else should we be looking in your opinion? As
That's pretty good, Tim. I would
is
say
that
that you're
right?
probably, yeah, I would say that you're probably ahead of a lot of people. So that's really good. But yeah, I mean, even insofar as like understanding from the shared working space what their energy is, where does it come from? Because I've worked in obviously co-working spaces that use renewable energy, so that's really good. Therefore, our energy emissions are zero, which
Yeah.
is really good. So that would be scope 2. Um,
Yeah. Okay.
I think that'd be scope 2, yeah. But yeah, as I said, there are loads of accounting, carbon accounting companies that can help you
Yeah.
out in terms of actually finding out the real number
Yeah.
and how
Yeah.
you can reduce it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. No, that's interesting. And then, well, I'm so convinced that that's not our real number that we always double
Yeah, it
offset. So
won't be.
we take our number, and then we go, we'll offset double whatever it is, and we try and do that through. I don't know whether you've ever heard them. CoTap. They're like they actually help communities in
Okay.
developing countries, and the money goes into what I think is better projects to offset the carbon. Because I've heard horror stories, I don't know whether this is right, where they've been cutting down virgin forest to then plant
Mm,
trees for people to
mm,
offset. That
yeah.
sounds pretty bad.
Offsetting is getting a little bit of a bad rep now in terms of how effective it really is. I think, to be honest, the best thing to do obviously is to reduce first where you can,
Okay.
like in the best way that you can. Similarly to the whole reduce, reuse, recycle slogan that
Okay.
exists, the first step is reduce, then reuse,
Yeah.
and then recycle type of thing. So
Yeah.
obviously there's always going to be things you can't make 100% better. So obviously it's better than doing nothing, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, just take offsetting with a little bit of a grain of salt, I think sometimes.
Okay. That's useful advice for me. So I'm hoping other people listen that find that's useful advice. And I think it was interesting what you also said about the technology thing,
Mm,
because like technology is absolutely core to what we do as digital marketeers, but we do try and eke out the lifespan of machines, if nothing else, because
mm.
we're using the expensive brand. I don't think we need to mention which one it is, but we use the expensive brand for our computers. And yeah, but I never really thought about, actually, you know, there's a lot of locked up carbon, but there's also other, you know, we've talked about carbon, but there's also a lot of other minerals, aren't there, in these things, with the batteries
Mm.
and
Oh, like
the
lithium and
electrical
stuff. Yeah.
components.
Yeah, totally. I mean, look, I think it's really easy to get freaked out by how much you need to do or can do, and that's why I think it's really important to break it down and to not beat yourself
Okay.
up and to not think that you need to be perfect. I think perfectionism just isn't possible yet in terms of
Okay.
sustainability, and it's just about understanding what you can actually do to make a difference. I mean, even from an individual level, like we don't need three people doing it perfectly. We need thousands of people doing it imperfectly. Which are all having small changes which make a difference. Like me as an individual, I love eating meat. I really enjoy meat, but I
Yeah.
know that meat consumption is one of the worst things you can do from an individual level in terms of your
Yeah.
personal impact. So I eat meat once a week, and I buy it from a nice organic butcher, and it costs a bit more, but I really enjoy it when I have it, and that's how I reduce my impact from that side
Yeah.
of things, and then you might look at your toiletries and refilling them and your cleaning products and things like that. So it's about, having a look at the whole spectrum of the way you live your life or the way you run your business and work out what small things can be done here and there, and
Yeah.
trying to freak yourself out because climate anxiety is a real thing. It can be
Yeah.
very heavy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a wonderful place to kind of draw it into, to a conclusion. You're saying don't get freaked out about not being
Mm,
perfect, but
just
try and do as many as you can.
start,
Okay.
just start.
So
Yeah,
so is that the thing that people should take away from this?
absolutely,
Now
absolutely.
now is the time to start. Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's wonderful. It's been lovely talking to you, Amelia, and you quoted obviously the CMA rules. You talked about
Hmm.
some Bain and Co studies. What we'll try
Hmm.
and do is grab those, put those into the show notes
Yeah.
for people to reference. But you've got so much to give on this subject matter. How would people listening be able to connect with you?
Just drop me a line on LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest
Okay,
way. Yeah.
perfect. With your well, we'll try and include that in the show notes as well, so that
Great.
people can jump on that link and they can get in touch with you. But Amelia, thank you very much for coming on and sharing your insights with all of the people today.
Thank you so much for having me, Tim. It's been great.
Wonderful. And for you, those of you watching on YouTube or listening on the other platforms, this has been Digital Marketing Answered. Please do like and subscribe, hit the notifications bell where that exists. But also do give us feedback on what you thought of the episodes, do comment, and also give us ideas for future episodes as well, because we always like to hear from you. So until the next episode, thanks very much for listening.